Alrighty, so today we are going to finish up the review for match week number 21. And again, in terms of these late night West Coast games, there were definitely some surprising results. But we start off with the Wooden Spoon Derby between the Colorado Rapids and the LA Galaxy. And I take back of what I said yesterday, where, this was the game that kind of hint that it was a Wooden Spoon Derby that turns out to be a very boring game. It actually wasn't. This game actually turns out to be interesting in a sense that there was actually chances for both of these teams to get that crucial winner to potentially get themselves a big 3 points to propel their season. Now, early on, Nicholson would hit it wide from the free kick before Bassett puts it way high from long range as the Rapids were pressing early for the lead. Bond did deny Lewis in the front post before Bassett heads it into the side netting, though Pooch hits one right to Yarbrough before Yarbrough would deny Joveljic in the 37th minute. And all of a sudden, the Galaxy, after a slow start to the game, they were starting to create some good chances, trying to get the opening goal, though Bassett did have a shot that was deflected wide from close range. It was a good game for Cole Bassett. I mean, he had a couple decent chances, but as was the case for pretty much everybody on this game, no finishing product. Nicholson then was wide open. Oh, by the way, we do head to halftime scoreless, and in the second half, Nicholson was wide open in the back post, but he somehow missed the header there. Yeah, again, just sums up that the finishing touch was definitely not for both of these teams. Bond would then deny Bassett from long range before Judd would puts one wide from long range in the 66th minute. And again, there's been some good chances for both of these teams to get the opening goal, but the finishing was a lot to be desired. And that biggest question is who can find that clinical finishing in this Winspoon derby? Well, Push tried to do so, but Yarbo was able to deny them, and they came off with a terrible turnover from the Rapids. Turnover wasn't really that much of an issue in this one. It was a relatively clean game in terms of both team not making too much of a mistake. Though in the first minute of stoppage time, Bebo looked to try to score his first career MLS goal, and what a moment that would be, scoring your first career MLS goal in the first minute of stoppage time, but didn't happen. That one went high, and yeah, in the end, it ends scoreless between both of these teams. Shots in this one: 13 shots for the 8 that the Rapids had, 3 shots on goal for the 1 that the Rapids had, 6 shots off target for the 5 that the Galaxy had, 1 shot that was blocked for the 5 that the Galaxy had, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to the 47% possession the Galaxy has in this game. And yeah, both of these teams desperately need a win in this Winspoon Derby. They don't get it, and this just kind of sums up why they are the two teams that is near the bottom of the West. I mean, I will say that when I do a video, which I think tomorrow I'm going to do a video talk about the Western Conference of how wide open it is. I'm probably gonna not include the Colorado Rapids and the LA Galaxy in the discussion of being wide open, because I think besides those two teams, pretty much the West is just so unpredictable, and you could really make a case that every team in the West besides these two teams are still in it in terms of making the playoffs, and also you could say that they could still have a shot of representing the Western Conference in MLS Cup this season. With that being said, moving on in terms of the next match is RSL and Minnesota United. So it's been 11 days since Minnesota has played a league game, and I feel like I wouldn't mind to see this team not play for 11 more days, because I think this was a very typical Loons Road game where that whole row heave mode kind of moniker that I've always mentioned, and I know nobody really mentioned it, but I kind of mention it because the definition of row heave mode is basically Adrian Heath decided to go ultra defensive for no reason whatsoever, trying to hold on to get a result, and most of the time it backfired. Guess what happened in this game? It backfired too. But in the first half, 3 minutes in, Hassani Dotson did have the first shot of the game, but he hits that one wide before Ojeda pulls it high from long range. And then there was definitely some controversy in this one. And I gotta say, Minnesota, I think they were benefit by some of these refereeing the decision, because this was definitely a questionable one, because there was no penalty that was given to RSL after VAR deemed that Taylor did not foul Hidalgo in the box. I'm not so sure about that. I mean, I think there was definitely a lot of contact, and keep in mind, the original call was penalty, so it was going to take something to overturn that, and I mean, I just don't think there was enough to overturn it, and I was kind of surprised that it was overturned. And again, DJ Taylor, very lucky the fact that VAR came to his rescue, and also, not to mention, it was not a good game for DJ Taylor, and that I just cannot wait until Kamar Lawrence eventually return to this team because we desperately need him. DJ Taylor has had a rough season so far, but yeah, he got away with this one, and I even wrote it too. They got away with one. I think that should have been a penalty for RSL, and they need to wake up because besides that one shot that they had from Hassani Dotson in the third minute, it was another slow start for the Loons on the road. But they seemed like they get the memo because just a couple of minutes later, Hassani Dotson would score here in the 27th minute, and it was not a banger, even though, every time Dotson gets on the score sheet, you're thinking it's a banger, but it wasn't. It was one that, it was against the run of play, but one that McMath wanted to have back. Like this was one that he just palmed a weak kind of cross from Reynoso, and that weak cross that McMath trying to palm away, it ended right in the hands of Hassani Dotson, and he slots it home there to give Minnesota a 1-0 lead. Sunbin then tried to make it 2-0, but he hits one right to McMath before Dotson does the same this time outside the box in the 31st minute. And the momentum with the Loons. They were pushing to try to get that second goal, and they do. In the 39th minute, guess who? Emmanuel Reynoso. He scored his first goal ever since his return from Sunbin and Taylor to make it 2-2. Or not make it 2-2. That was the final score of this game. But Minnesota were up 2-0 against RSL. It was also just a spoiler alert that 2-0 lead, the Loons weren't able to hold on. So yeah, that of course was the scoreline heading into the second half. But that lead looked like it was cut in half instantly as Pablo Ruiz puts it into the back of net, and it looked like it was 2-1. But VAR says that the goal was disallowed for offside. Now originally I have no idea how that of course was offside. I looked at multiple angle and I just couldn't figure out why that is offside. And to this day, I probably still don't know. Maybe the only thing I can think that's offside was it looks like Julio was kind of in the vicinity when that shot was straight from Pablo Ruiz, and I guess maybe VAR feel like Julio was in the vicinity where it maybe shield Irvin there enough. The fact that also Julio was in an offside position, but he kind of shield Irvin enough that it's worthy of being offside. But again, that's very debatable. And I thought once again the Loons got away with another questionable refereeing decision. And if you're RSL, I do not blame RSL fans being absolutely upset about the atrocious refereeing decision because again between this and the no PK call in the 60th minute, I think the Loons have gone away with one, and that RSL was kind of hard done by it. And this is coming from a Minnesota United fan. That is. But in the 65th minute, the post would deny Glad from close range before Silver heads it wide from the corner. The row heave mode was in full effect. Like this is and I really think ever since the beginning of the second half, this team just went row heave mode. This team just completely decided to sit back and bunker and just pray that they can hold on to this 2-0 lead. Savarino would then puts it high from long range, and keep in mind RSL was pressing hard to try to get one back before he puts one right to Irvin. Maswowski then puts it high from close range, but then just 1 minute later, he would be on target as he scored here from Ruiz to give uh, some life for RSL and cut the lead in half. And as soon as that lead was cut in half, I knew the Loons were going to blow it. Like, I had a feeling it was going to happen. It was just wave after wave of pressure that RSL was putting. Silver would then heads it wide from close before Luna would blast it high from long range. And then, literally on the final kick of the game, Justin Glad would score. He scored here from Luna and Ojeda because what a better way for Roe Heathbo to blow up spectacularly in Adrian Heath face by conceding a last second in equalizer. And again, I also wrote that was probably the least surprise stoppage time goal. Like when I saw that stoppage time goal, I wasn't even disappointed. I knew that was coming. It was just a matter of time before RSL was going to get the equalizer. I would think that I would be even more surprised if they were able to hold on to that 2-1 lead, but alas, it didn't happen. RSL got the equalizer, and that would be the final score of this game. And the shots basically tells the story. 27 shots committed, 8 that Minnesota has. 4 shots on goal for the 6 that RSL had. 11 shots off target for the 2 that Minnesota has. 2 shots on blocked with the 10 that RSL has. And possession-wise, 70% possession compared to 30% possession that Minnesota has in this game. And I think the only good news coming out of this game for Minnesota, at least they didn't that goal that scored by Justin Glad wasn't actually a late winner because we've seen so many times when row heave mode does happen, this team would eventually give up not only the equalizer, but eventually the winning goal for the other team. But again, how many times I've said Rohith Mo just does not work with this team. I mean, maybe it worked one or twice, but it shouldn't be something that this team should be rely on. And that again, and I will say this, Adrian Heath, I feel like he's done a good job this season. I mean, I know that sounds crazy to say, and I know the Heath out brigade is gonna be writing in the comment section and probably gonna be very angry about what I said, and probably saying that I don't know what I'm talking about. But this game was not one of those. This game, it felt like Adrian Heath was back to the problem that he has really for these past couple of years, where he decided to just try to maybe hold on and just kind of bunker from minute one, or in this case, from minute 45, to trying to get the win. And it backfired big time. But for RSL, I mean, I'm pretty sure they're happy that they were able to at least salvage a point. It looked like it was just not going to happen. It felt like it was just one of those frustrating games where RSL has had these games where they dominate against their opposition at home, but they can't get anything out of it. But I think, despite that, there has to be some concern with this RSL team that they just cannot win at home. I mean, it is hard to believe that this is a team that does very well on the road. They still have the most win on the road out of any team this season, but their home form has not been great. I mean, they have not won a home game since April, and this is really surprising. Consider, well, right now it's called America First Field, but I'm always going to call that the Riot. That's a place that RSL has really thrived for the past couple of seasons. So again, that's got to be frustrating if you're an RSL fan. The fact that you pay good money to watch your team, and you saw how good they have been playing on the road, and yeah, it doesn't really translate into home form. And as a Loons fan, I can definitely agree with that sentiment, because that's kind of the same problem Minnesota has had, and it looked like that was going to be once again the case, where they were on their way of winning a road game, but then, as I mentioned, Rohith Mo happened. But that being said, moving on in the next match, is LAFC and Vancouver. So the Whitecaps, I actually didn't know that they have not won a road game this season, but this actually was the first time that they were able to win a road game, and the first time that they beat LAFC on the road. Though again, if there's any team coming into this middle of the week where for once we actually have no MLS team in action, either in league play or US Open Cup, and that every team is going to at least get a midweek rest. And if there's one team that are the most happy that is the case, it's got to be LAFC. I mean, this team, it just feels like this team has been battle and bruised it, and you can even tell too by the fact that they were starting a makeshift backline in this game against Vancouver, and it did not work whatsoever. In fact, it didn't take long for them to concede. For that makeshift backline to concede the opening goal. Just 2 minutes in, Veselinovic was able to score from goal to make it 1-0 in favor of the Whitecaps. Great delivery there from Ryan Gaul from the corner, and Veselinovic, we know that he could be a threat in the air too. He slots it home to give Vancouver a 1-0 lead. Safuntes then looked for an instant response, but he puts it high from long range before Cordova puts it wide there, and then Cordova was in on goal here, but he hits the side netting because Sergio Cordova has been snaked. I mean, there's a reason why Sergio Cordova has not been a regular starter for this team, and Brian White still holds that spot because yeah, he's just been snake bitten and has dropped down the pecking order, and this was really a game for him to try to redeem himself. It didn't happen. But also, that chances kind of came from a bad turnover from LAFC. That kind of was a theme in this game too. Though in the 23rd minute, Vancouver would make it 2-0. It's Brian White scoring from goal and Cordova to make it 2-0 in favor of the Whitecaps. It came off of a lightning counterattack, that's exactly what a cup of tea for Vanni Sartini's team. Like, we know that Vanni Sartini team can be lethal on the counterattack. And this is also where I think I said in the preview where, LAFC has had problems in terms of dealing with teams playing quickly on the transition and sit back. We saw that was an issue against Houston, where Houston was hitting them on the transition and they were having trouble dealing with it. And we even see it against Leon too, like in that two-leg affair, especially in the second leg. Leon was trying to hit LAFC on the counterattack, and they were able to found some space there at the back. And in this game, Vancouver pretty much followed that formula that Houston and Leon kind of perfect, and yeah, that gives them the second goal of the game, and it could have been 3-0 if it wasn't for McCarthy denying goal there. And again, this LAFC backline, it was all over the place. They had no answer in terms of dealing with the transition moment or any moment against this Whitecaps team. But they were giving a lifeline in the 45th minute because when you have Denise Bowanga on your team, you're going to get a lifeline. And he scored here to make it 2-1 in favor of Vancouver. That's actually his first goal of June. And for a guy that has been red hot this season, it's kind of surprising that Denise Bowanga has not scored a goal in the month of June, and that's his first one. But we do head to halftime with the Whitecaps leading 2-1. In the second half, Raposo would miss wide from close before Vela would hit one right to Takaoka. There's been some half chances for both of these teams to get the next goal. However, it would be Vancouver that gets the next goal. It's Ryan Goal, who had a spectacular game in this one. He adds a goal to his name along with his 2 assists here to make it 3-1 in favor of the Whitecaps. That 2-goal lead did not last long, though, because in the 68th minute, Vela would give LAFC a lifeline as he scored here from Bogusz to make it 3-2 in favor of the Whitecaps. I gotta say, Mateusz Bogusz has really delivered for this LAFC team in these last couple of games. But at the same time, you could say that that was a gift for LAFC because Veselinovic, I mean, after scoring a good goal in this one in the second minute, yeah, he would love to have this one back. I mean, he absolutely whiffed on the clearance, and when you make mistake against this lethal LAFC attack, most of the time you're gonna be pay, and yeah, Vancouver was made to be pay after a bad mistake there at the back. Vela then hits one right to Takaoka. The momentum was definitely with LAFC, and this is where you're just thinking if you're Vancouver. I mean, it's been a great game, but this is where LAFC should have the firepower to get the equalizer, right? Well, not quite, because after Sefuntes puts it high from long range, Bawanga would then puts it wide from close in the 88th minute, and that was it. Vancouver, they were able to hold on to win 3-2 in this one. The shots in this one, 17 shots for the 16 that the Whitecaps had, 9 shots on goal for both of these teams, 4 shots off target for the 5 that LAFC had. Both teams had 3 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, 62% possession compared to 38% possession that the Whitecaps has in this game, and overall, very entertaining game. But for the Whitecaps, what a time to get your first win on the road. I mean, it's not every day you see a team able to head to LAFC and get all 3 points, though in the last couple of games it has kind of happened at a bit of a more regular occurrence. I mean, LAFC home form, they haven't been as good as what we've seen in the beginning of the season, but still it's a big win for the Vancouver Whitecaps. And if you're LAFC, again, they are so happy the fact that they actually will get a week worth of rest, because again, this team had not had that luxury for the past month or so because of either CCL commitment or US Open Cup, or even making up those league games that was postponed because of CCL run. And hopefully that this rest will be enough for those guys to be well rested, and some of these players to get back from injury, because the injuries are starting to grow on this LAFC team. And again, this is not a big surprise because we see this happen with teams that go deep into CCL, where there's that CCL tax that you got to pay, and LAFC is definitely paying that with some of these makeup games that they are doing. But that being said, moving on in terms of the next match is Portland and NYCFC. So the rematch of the 2021 MLS Cup, and it actually ends in the same scoreline with a 1-1 draw in a game where, I will say that the Timbers will be a little bit more frustrating that they didn't get the win, because they actually had a lot of decent chances in this one to get the win. But again, this team, just like their Cascadia rival up in the north, are having a tough time in terms of putting away those chances. In the 4th minute, Boley would puts it wide from close before in the 11th minute, Paredes would puts it wide from long range. As the Timbers, I thought they start out the better side. They were pressing for the lead, and they do get it in the 38th minute. It's Evander scoring from Larea and Paredes to give the Timbers a 1-0 lead. It was almost 2-0 if it wasn't for Matt Freese absolutely robbing Boley there. But actually, that despite him robbing Boley there, that ball was still goal bound, and Chino had to clear that one off the line before that actually trickled into the back of the net. But yeah, there's no doubt that Portland was hungry in the first half. By the way, Matt Freese starting for the first time. I was kind of a little surprised that Matt Freese has not got a start for NYCFC. I mean, isn't that kind of the whole purpose of him going to NYCFC to escape from the shadow of Andre Blake? And yeah, he hasn't really found that success with Luis Borazo really anchoring that number one spot. But we do head to halftime with Portland leading 1-0, and the second half, the Timbers look for a second goal. Boley had a chance to do so, but he hits one right to Freeze, and straight off the back, the Timbers were on the front foot looking for the second goal. But instead, in the 51st minute, NYCFC equalized. It's Keaton Parks scoring from Pellegrini to tie the game up at one apiece. And then Ivasic had to deny Magno from close in the 55th minute. And all of a sudden, the momentum was swinging right in favor of NYCFC. I mean, up to this point, the Timbers were by far the better team. But NYCFC getting that equalizer, rejuvenate them. They were looking to try to get the lead. Though Evander did hit a free kick that goes straight to Freeze before he actually went beast mode in the 62nd minute, trying to take on that entire NYCFC defense. It didn't quite work out as it was broken at the vital moment. Though on the other end, Rodriguez puts it wide from close before Magno puts it right to Ivasic. And again, this game feels really open. Like both of these teams were starting to push to try to get some good chances. Bravo would hit one straight to Freeze before Freeze would deny Evan there. But he did give up a rebound, and he is fortunate that Chino was there to clear that one away because that would not be a good goal for Matt Freeze to give up. And again, I think that's what happened when you're making your first start and being so rusty of not getting game action. That is Matt Freeze. I mean, he has not looked anywhere close to being that up and coming goalkeeper that he was when he came out of the Union Academy. Then in the 84th minute, Moreno would flash one wide as the Timbers were pressing late for the or not the equalizer, but actually the winner up to this point. Mosquera had a shot that was actually spilled by Freeze, but he was able to gather on the second attempt. And then Evander would nick the post on the free kick as the full-time whistle was sound. And that probably is a very poetic way for this game to end, with the way that the Timbers at times have came close in terms of scoring that winning goal. But close as it is the case in the sport of soccer and pretty much in any sport, it's never good enough. As the Timbers, with another disappointing draw in this one, a 1-1 draw against NYCFC, still searching for their first home win that they had in the last couple of games. And the shots in this one, 16 shots compared to 8 that NYCFC had, 7 shots on goal compared to 3 that NYCFC had, 2 shots that was off target compared to 5 that the Timbers had, 4 shots that was blocked compared to 3 that NYCFC had, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that NYCFC has in this game. And again, the Timbers, they had their moments, but again, just like their neighbor up in North, they just are kind of snake bitten in terms of scoring goal. They're having trouble in terms of getting that clinical finishing, and that it's not because of a lack of trying. It's just because of a combination of bad finishing and their opposition goalkeeper playing relatively well. Though I wouldn't say that was the case for Matt Freeze. I mean, he did had some shaky moment before a guy that is making it his first start after not playing for such a long time. I think it was a relatively good game, and that for NYCFC, I guess it's a good result that they got a point on the road. I mean, you got to remember this is a team that has really struggled this season on the road. So the fact that they have not lost in their last 2 road games, I think that's considered to be a success in terms of them finally trying to find a way to get themselves some wins, because this is also a team that have not won on a long time. With that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last 2 games to finish off the match week of number 21. So moving on, in the next game is the Quakes and St. Louis City. So coming into this game, the Quakes were the last team in the Western Conference to have yet to suffer defeat at home. After 90 minutes of this game, they were no longer the last team to suffer a home loss this season, as they lost this one to St. Louis City, though I think they were hard done in this game because I thought they played really well. This was probably one of the better attacking performance for the Quakes in this one. The problem is they ran into Roman Berkey, and Roman Berkey, we know he is definitely right there up in the top 10 or even the top 5 list as the best goalkeeper in the league this season, and he kind of showed why, because he really stole all 3 points for St. Louis in this game. And also a guy named by Samuel Adeniran, who has just came back from San Antonio and was recalled from the loan, and he turned out to have a career game in this one for St. Louis. Now, in the first half, 11 minutes in, Daniel would denied Jackson, but it fell right to there, and had a tap in the back post, and somehow, in some way, Daniel was able to get himself back in a position to deny him. I mean, that was absolute robbery from Daniel. The flag, of course, did went up, so I think that wouldn't have counted, but that just shows you an example of why Daniel, in a limited sample size, he has just been an absolute rock for this Quakes team in terms between this stake. I mean, I mentioned it before. I don't think the Quakes have had this solid of a goalkeeper between the stick since David Bingham left this team, and that still rang true after this game too. Even though Daniel did concede it 2 goals, though again one of them was from the spot. In the 16th minute, Ibovasi would hit one right to Berkey, and also the other one that he conceded. There was nothing he could have done before Berkey would deny Ibovasi in the 22nd minute. And after a slow start, the Quakes kind of have woke up. They were pressing to try to get the opening goal. Down and would then miss wide from the header before Jackson would hit it straight to Danielle. Yule then hits one right to Berkey in the 32nd minute. Before in the 41st minute, St. Louis take the lead. And it's Adanaran. He scored here from Rasmus to give St. Louis a 1-0 lead. That's the first career goal for Samuel Adanaran, but also just same old Quakes. I mean, being terrible defending at set piece, it feels like that's something I've seen this Quakes team has done a lot, and that was just terrible set piece defending. I mean, you cannot leave Samuel Adanaran, even though he hasn't scored a goal in MLS. The fact that he was left with a free header, that was just criminal set piece defending from the Quakes. And yeah, St. Louis took advantage of it. They were leading 1-0, and that would be the scoreline heading into the second half. That lead did not last long heading into the second half because in the 47th minute, Ramiro Montero, he scored his first goal of the season from Jackson Yule to tie the game up at 1 apiece, and that one came over the turnover from St. Louis. And it was a turnover because of the fact that the Quakes did a good press and able to force a turnover from St. Louis. So in some way, that goal was really score to give St. Louis a little taste of their own medicine in terms of the energy drink soccer that they always play under Bradley Carnell. Though in the 54th minute, Berkey would deny Espinoza on the free kick, and it was a great save there from Berkey. On the free kick, one of the many good saves that he had in this game. But then in the 55th minute, penalty was given to St. Louis as VAR deemed that Mensah brought down Jackson in the box, and it's the right call. And I know a lot of Quakes fans were not happy about this call. They feel like it's wrong. But when I look on the replay a couple of time and kind of slow frame it, it's the right call. It's pretty clear that Mensah brought down Jackson in the box there. And then in comes Adanaran to slots the penalty because remember, they don't have Edouard Lupin in this game, and they haven't had him for the past couple of games of dealing with injuries. But he slots it home to score his second career MLS goal to give St. Louis a 2-1 advantage and restore their lead. Akapo did look for an instant response, but he heads it wide from the corner before Berkey denying Espinoza from close range. And once again, the Quakes were pressing to get these equalizer. But the question is, can they stop Berkey, who has been not only fantastic in this game, but he looks like he was ready to steal one for St. Louis in this one. Sakaris would hit one that is denied by Berkey in the 88th minute before in the 5th minute stoppage time. Berkey, absolutely robbery here of Rodriguez from a point blank header. I mean, Rodriguez really hits that one well, but there was Berkey with just some cat like reflexes to deny and rob Rodriguez of the equalizer. And then in the 9th minute stoppage time, really the last kick of the game, Berkey was able to deny Tommy Thompson in the near post. And yeah, in the end, St. Louis were able to walk away with a 2-1 win. Their 4-game winless run has came to an end, and they can thank Roman Berkey for that because of his fantastic performance. And the shots in this one, 14 shots committed, 9 that St. Louis had, 5 shots on goal committed, 9 that the Quakes had, 2 shots off target for both of these teams, 3 shots that was blocked with the 2 that St. Louis had, and possession-wise, 63% possession compared to 37% possession that St. Louis has in this game. And for the Quakes, I know it was a disappointing result, but again, I think overall, as I said, I think this was probably one of the best attacking performance. And if they weren't facing Roman Berkey, they probably would have scored 2 or 3 goals in this one. Which again, I think as much as yes, it's a loss, you got to take that as a positive outlook, and especially the fact that in the next game they have what they call their version of MLS Cup against the LA Galaxy at Stanford Stadium. I'm excited to see how this team will perform, especially against a Galaxy team that have not been playing well, and maybe get some revenge after what happened early the season when they played probably one of the worst game of the season against the Galaxy on the road. But that being said, moving on into the final game on this board, it's Seattle and Orlando City. So as I mentioned with the Portland Timbers, Seattle pretty much have the same issue as their Cascadia rival. It's not because of lack of trying of the chances that they create, but they're just snake bitten in terms of finishing, and it's another game where they got shut out at home. This time in the hands of Orlando City. Now, early on, Galese would denied Bear as he was in on goal before the post, denying Ladero from point blank because again, when you're not scoring goals and you're having a tough time scoring goals, even the post can be your victim, or can be your villain in this game. And it was definitely a couple of times for Ladero in this one, but there was no doubt that straight off the back, Seattle was pressing to get the opener. I mean, that crowd at Lewinsville, they were just waiting for something to celebrate. You can just sense that, obviously that crowd, Lumens Field, it's been so long since they've seen their home team score a goal, and they just feel like if they can get one in, they can explode low, and that this team can end that goal drought at home. In the 7th minute, Araujo would hit one into the side netting. Again, I know it's pronounced Araujo, but again, it's just too confusing. I think until when Luis Araujo is no longer an Atlanta player, which shouldn't be that long, I'll probably just pronounce it Araujo instead of Araujo as what some of the broadcaster tends to pronounce. But in the 9th minute, Holiday would hit it wide off the volley, and I thought this been a frantic game. I mean, there's been chances coming in for both teams, and these are not just chances. These are grade A chances that could have give the opening goal for both of these teams. Ojeda then blasted high from long range before Torres puts it high on the free kick. Fry then denied Maguire on the header, and then Abear would head it wide from the corner as we head to halftime scoreless, despite the fact that there's been some golden opportunity for both of these teams. In the second half, Rusnak would put it wide from close before the post would deny Ladero again and the Sounders the second time. And again, Ladero and the Sounders, they're just bitten. I mean, when your captain is snake bitten, it's not a big surprise that the whole team itself is, because right now, despite that wave after wave of pressure, they just cannot put the ball in the back of the net. And part of that is also Galese making some big saves. He denied Rusnak there in the 52nd minute before Abear would miss it wide from close. And I feel like Orlando was clearly playing for a draw. This feels like it was a typical Oscar Pereira job where they were trying to bunker, trying to play for a draw or even nick a goal somehow, because right now they're absorbing tons of pressure, and really if they want to play for a draw, they got to ride out of this wave of storm that Seattle was putting on. Fry then denied Maguire from close before he denied Torres, but it actually goes straight to Pereira, and he's got to do better there. I mean, Maurizio Pereira, that's one that he's got to bury, but he blasted wide. And I mean, I take that back. I mean, I feel like maybe Orlando saw what I wrote, or maybe Oscar Pereira saw what I wrote, and he said, "No, I'm not gonna play for a draw. I'm actually gonna go for the win in this one." Abear then missed wide from close before Torres just dragged it wide from close range, and it just doesn't feel like it's going to happen for both of these teams. Despite the numerous chances that both of these teams has, there was no final quality. There was no finishing quality whatsoever for both of these teams. And as the full-time whistle was sound, boos were raining down at Lumens Field, and I don't blame the Sounders fan for booing their team. I mean, these last 3 games they have not scored a goal. The drought kind of continue, and also the drought in terms of getting wins at Lumens Field continue. I mean, this is now what, one win in the last 6 home games for the Sounders, which is completely unheard of. Even last season when they were doing bad, they were still at least winning some home games, and they didn't go for a long stretch where they're not winning home games. I mean, it is really bizarre seeing this team struggle so much at home. But really, just just this last month or two, it's just been a disastrous last 2 months after this good start to the season. And as I said, because of that, they are, despite the fact that they're still high up in the standings, I think they're still in 3rd place. They are dropping like a rock if they can continue at these kind of performance. But the shots in this one, 16 shots compared to 13 that Orlando has, so plenty of shots, but the shots on goal tells the story. Only 2 of them were on target compared to 3 that Orlando City has. 10 shots off target compared to 8 that Orlando City has. 4 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that Orlando City has. And possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession that Seattle has. And I said about Seattle being wasteful. I would say you could say the same thing for Orlando City. I mean, I think Orlando City fans, they'll be a little bit disappointed that, yes, even though they got a draw out of this game, and anytime when you get a draw on the road, it's considered a good thing, but you feel like they could have got something out of this one. They also were a little bit better in terms of finishing, but at the end of the day, again, This is a game that both of these teams will feel like they left points on the board, and especially for the Seattle Sounders, who again the struggle at home continue. They got to turn this around, or else they're really gonna drop down the standings with a lot of team behind them that is breathing down their neck. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of looking at all of these games from match week number 21. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of these two games and also the other 4 games on the other board. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button. And like I said, this is one of the few time where we actually don't have midweek action, and I'm gonna enjoy it because I know after the weekend's action, we're gonna have some midweek game during the holiday uh part of the schedule where there's a couple of 4th of July games and even games after the 4th of July before we have some weekend games that is gonna happen. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.